And here we are today in a great celebration. This is David and Crystal Knapp, and they are the founders of Grief Relief Ministries, and we have a beautiful journal book that has been released today. I'm Becky Norwood with Spotlight Publishing, and this is our author showcase. Welcome to both of you, David and Crystal.
Thank you. It's our pleasure.
It's such a pleasure. I think back over the years, we've known each other for quite a while. And yours was you were actually one of my first authors that I started working with. And I just always just treasure the work that went into that, getting that book out to the world. And for David, his book is called I Didn't Know What to Say, How to Being a Better Friend to those who have experienced loss. And here we come with a journal now that is a perfect accompanying. So I'd love for you to share your backstory of how all of this came to be, because I think that gives a frame of reference for those that are listening. So, David.
Well, Crystal and I have both experienced losses in our life, and the journal is a result of combining our experiences. My losses include everything from my dad being killed in a farm accident when I was 11, losing a job, losing pets, moving around. I've had the fortunate experience of losing two wives to cancer after 20 years of experience of marriage each. And then Crystal's had some major losses in the last few years.
Well, yeah, being a single lady, I was really close to my family, so I lost both my folks, and I was like talking to my mom like every day. And then recently, just a number of aunts that I've been caring for, and family members that I was having to care for. So it's kind of close into that. And I also lost my job. So
they're all big losses, aren't they?
Yeah.
And then what I found out as a result of the first book that you've already referred to, I'd had requests to speak publicly about my experiences and help people understand what it's like and how to help people. In addition to people who are helping someone going through loss, I had grievers come up to me and says, how do I know if I want to grieve well, like you're talking about? How do I know I'm doing it? I don't know how to grieve. And I thought, well, I think I could help you. And so it behooved us to realize, okay, even though the original book, I didn't know what to say, leans towards helping people understand what to say to a griever, although grievers get tremendous help from understanding their own experience from reading the book, we decided we needed to have something that would guide people through the grieving process. And so using the schedule that's in the original book, Crystal and I put together this journal that we feel is going to be a big help guiding people through their grieving process.
That's so beautiful, because it's, there's no right way. There's no one wrong way of doing this. And there's no timeline, is there, as far as the grieving process. And it can be even sometimes years later where something triggers that grief all over again, whether it's an anniversary or whether it's something that just triggers those emotions to come back up. And writing is a remarkable way to really kind of just pull together the heart and the mind, and collecting the thoughts, and even collecting the memories of those special people.
Right. And not everybody is going to be a writer necessarily. And that's fine, because the book does give paragraph, in many cases, guidance and instruction to help people understand you're not going crazy.
Right. Absolutely. So, Crystal, what is your take on, I know you worked really hard to get all of this put together. You both did together, but you've got your InDesign skills, you've got all of this. Have you shared the book out already with other people, and what is the feedback on it?
Well, I have shared it. Mostly I was trying to get them to just check for errors, but then they were saying, oh, like my one friend, she said, I wish I would have had this when I was going through my divorce, because the man I thought I was married to wasn't. And she said it was such a loss. And I think it was the prompts that were in there of think about this and why don't you write this down, that would have helped her. And so I really appreciated that feedback. There was others that have kind of told me how they liked that we used some familiar songs, some lyrics, or things that just kind of probed the emotions and then helped you learn from that or take something from that.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah. And there's so many different kinds of loss. I have a dear friend that just lost her dog, and
Mhm.
she has just been just so heartbroken and so grieving. And actually our pets become like our kids,
Yeah,
so they're very much a family member. So loss of a job, loss of a pet, loss of and even sometimes when families don't get along and they go their separate ways, there's such a deep loss too,
yeah,
that,
Right.
yeah, yeah.
Commonly,
So
we find that anything that you have an emotional connection to can be considered a major loss, even if it's your job, because some people are so married, if you please, to their job that their whole identity is wrapped up in that. Other people, it's who they are in their community, and if that community rejects them, then they're lost and have to grieve that particular loss, and like losing a friend.
that's so true. Yes, and my husband a few years ago, he lost his job. He lost the next day. He lost his job, turned 60, lost his dad, and then 3 months later lost his sister. And ah, the the time that it took just to kind of get his feet back underneath him and know really how to operate in the world. And he tried all kinds of things before he kind of landed on what it is that he could do, that would kind of help him through. And it turned out he finally went back to work in the same industry. And that's where he's been in that industry in the dairy processing for 45 years. And that's where he's comfortable.
Yep.
And that's what feels right for him. That's his solid foundation. But boy, he tried a lot of different things. He got into real estate, and he's such a shy, quiet man that did not work for him. So trying to figure out and really still deal with the losses that had happened in his life. So
Right.
yes.
And one of the features in the journal towards the back is to helping people understand that going through all of the first events after a loss is steps towards healing. The first time you meet with a friend, the first Christmas, the first anniversary, all those first things, there's provision to record those, and that's a part of the process of healing.
Beautiful. And so in the process, when you wrote your first book, one of the things that really stuck with me when you because it's being a better friend, because what I find, and I just had one of my authors, he published just not even 2 months ago, and he just lost his wife. I got a message on Friday evening, and yes, she had been sick for a long time, but still, it is. What do you say to a person that has lost somebody? How do you communicate with them that you truly care? Because so many times we just kind of get stuck in that pattern. If I say anything, I'm going to make them cry, or I don't
mhm,
know really what to do and how to be the biggest support. So how do we work? Because I want to promote both books. Actually, I want to talk about both of the books. And a journal book is your journal book is a very beautiful complement to the book that you already wrote and was published, what, maybe 6 years ago, 7 years ago? Uh,
2015.
whoa, look at that. How much time passes. So what would you say to that?
Oftentimes, people are hesitant to bring up the subject of someone's loss because they feel uneasy. And consequently, they improperly conclude, well, if I bring the subject up to them, it'll make them feel bad too. And I don't want to make them feel bad. I've had people actually tell me that, and I have to be real candid. I said, listen, there's nothing you can say that will make me feel worse than I did when my wife died. So don't worry about doing that. In fact, oftentimes the key is going to be saying something that it relates to my present grief, instead of saying, "Oh, I'm sorry for your loss," and that's a very polite worldwide thing to say. But in addition to that, how about saying things like, "You must have a big hole in your soul," or "That must really hurt." Or that must be difficult with an empty chair at your table. Something that describes what they might be feeling today. And oftentimes things like that are very relevant. And Crystal has very accurately helped lay out the journal, and it's according to the schedule that we put in the book, because the book itself has a kind of a timeline. At the first month it's like this, the next first 3 months, and so forth. And anyhow, she found that, well, then we just go by that, and that'll give some guidance, and go from there.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So, go ahead, Crystal.
I didn't have anything. Go ahead.
So the essence of this, and I met somebody yesterday that is also working in the grief area, and the processes of just being able to treasure the memories, but still, and also for those that are friends with those that have had the loss, to know, to have those words to say. And what you just said was absolutely beautiful, because we do kind of struggle from time to time with, well, what do I say? Do I even talk about this person? And the answer is yes. The answer is truly yes.
So memories are key, and that's why Crystal's included places to record those things in the journal.
Well, and also getting the support. Are you guys frozen? It looked like everything kind of froze for a minute there.
Not on this end, sorry.
So we put the link into the chat, and the chat's live on Facebook and YouTube. But when and if you you want to get a copy of this, because this is an amazing, beautiful journal book, and I don't think there's any one of us that don't know somebody that's suffering some kind of a loss. And that's what we're asking, is if you will just share this wonderful journal book out, tell them about it, give them the link, talk about it. You can also look up David and Crystal Knapp, actually. And maybe that's why I had to struggle in the search, because Crystal was spelled wrong. So I got to go take care of that. But David, the work that you do, you've gone to prisons, you've done a lot of different things, because there are so many types of grief. Can you share some of those experiences?
Yeah, like you said, I've shared my experiences in prisons, in churches, in leadership conferences, actually, for major organizations, business conferences. Recently I was even interviewed by a guy that was asking questions about, well, do you think CEOs in this country understand grieving enough to be able to realize that the lack or the presence of grieving affects their bottom dollar? And I've met with the business owners that really said, oh, wow, I never thought about that. Whether it be hiring somebody who's really just bouncing off of a loss and still are not up to par. Because one of the things I experienced during my grieving process was the weakening of my creativity. I just look forward to getting my creativity back. Well, here's somebody who a CEO is paying big bucks to be creative, and they're not all firing on all 8 cylinders for now, and they haven't had the time to do that. So, yeah, there's been a number of scenarios. We do one-on-one conversations with people. I've written articles and that are out there on various places on the internet, but a lot of speaking opportunities opens up doors, because sometimes I can say from stage what other people are glad somebody finally said. And one of those that you mentioned about pet loss, after I spoke one time, I walked to the back, and the lady who was sitting on the aisle in the back row handed me a note. And as I grabbed that note and walked out to the back and read it, and she says, "Thank you. You are the first person that's given me permission to grieve the loss of my dog. That was my best friend."
Oh, we have a question in the chat. We have a relative who lost a 15-month-old son, only child, 3 years ago. Would your new journal book be helpful? Whoops, and it just moved. The screen moved. Oh, there it is.
Vicki, I kind of read that, and I'd like to answer that. I believe that it would be a good thing for them. One of the people that I asked to review the book to give me what she felt about it lost her 5-year-old. And she had some really good feedback, and we put that into there. So it does help. It will not speak directly to your child. Often it might sound a little bit like your spouse, but we tried to say to your loved one, or the person, the divorce, the relationship that you lost. But I would think it would be good for losing a child. That ache never leaves.
But
it will be a way for the parents to maybe plumb some of the depth and maybe think of record. That's why we like the title, Recording My Sorrows. Just get that out. And in that process, there's a bit of a healing that can happen, because you're bathing your emotions. You're getting them out, and it's kind of like, it's like crying on paper, and it kind of gets it out. So I would say that. And then somebody else asked another question, and I would say, at the price of the journal, it's precious few dollars more than a card. And this could be something that the person who you care about can be working on or have throughout the year. And you know what? If they're not a journaler, they'll end up giving it to someone else. It will have a life. It'll go on. But I think it is actually, I'm planning on using it when people have a loss in their life, because I think it's got some lasting and some staying power.
Beautiful. Yeah. There's no loss like a loss of a child. And there's all kinds of loss, but the loss of a child, it seems like it goes so deep. I have, my brother lost two children, one to crib death and one to suicide. And I'm telling you, I don't know if he's ever been able to get through it. It changed him forever, him and his wife both. And I can't even imagine. I simply can't imagine. No parent should have to bury their child, but the self-care that a person needs to give themselves when they've experienced these kind of losses, pet or child or whatever kind of loss, there's still a lot of self-care that needs to take place, and journaling is one of those ways. And really forming a community around yourselves of support. But really, the community is the ones that should come together and surround that person with a lot of love. Yeah.
Oftentimes, I've had people just tell me that after I maybe spoke, or even after going through the book, it's almost like there's one thing that helps them get past the hump that they're in. And the journal has a lot of one things, and you don't know which one of those things is going to be the thing that to help your friend or you make it to the next level, or to find some freedom, at least at the present. And like I said, sometimes it's just that one thing, which may be on page 50 and not page 1, that helps you realize, oh, I guess I'm not I guess I'm normal and I'm not going crazy.
Right. And no, you're not going crazy. That the process of healing is something that it takes time and a lot of loving yourself and a lot of care and respect from others, to get through the process. And it typically is not an overnight thing.
No.
Yeah.
No, that's why grieving, as a man, kind of a type A kind of a guy, I thought, well, I'll grieve and be on with life. No, grieving is not an event. It's a process. And that process just varies with so many things, whether it's the maturity level of the individual involved, the definition of the relationship, or what you lost. And sometimes you can get past it in months, and sometimes years, and other times that loss just simply becomes a part of who you are now.
It's a lifetime.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I so appreciate, go ahead, Crystal, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, when David said grieving is not an event, but a process, there's an illustration for coloring that takes that quote, and the artist is a friend of ours, and she heard what David said. So her way of processing was to create this illustration, and it became the cover, or portion of it on the cover. And I like it because you can kind of see her artistic mind processing that whole thing of grief, and she gave expression through art.
It's so beautiful. I met a lady just this morning that the way she works with people that are grieving, it was fascinating, but is by artwork. And she gets, she'll have a conversation and she comes up with this beautiful drawing, and she uses different colors in it, and then talks about the different individuals involved and the process. It's fascinating. So yes, I loved that drawing that you put in there, and the fact that it can be a coloring piece,
Right.
which is, for some of us, that's the best healing that we can, because we're still using a different part of our brain even when we're doing those kind of things. Yeah. Beautiful. Well, I truly, truly appreciate both of you and the work that you're doing in the world. David, can you talk a little bit about your Grief Relief Ministries, and what does that look like for somebody if they want to contact you?
Grief Relief Ministries is actually established to help, generically help people understand the grieving process. But I kind of began because I had so many people after my second wife died come up to me and says, Dave, I tried to talk to you, or write to you or something, and I didn't know what to say. And I realized that there are a lot of people out there that would just need a little bit of guidance or help in understanding the grieving process. I know after my first wife died, it was a shock to me. I had no clue a human could hurt that bad. So Grief Relief Ministries is designed to provide tools and guidance and help. We've got these 2 books. A third one is coming up later. There's a course online that I've prepared. It's 8 hours. 8 1-hour sessions that you can get a hold of and listen to at your leisure to understand the grieving process. There's a blog on the webpage, griefreliefministries.com, that various subject matters that come to play. In fact, the most recent one that's on there, one of the more recent ones is, here's some steps to take when somebody dies. And, who to contact, your insurance company, and all these things. And it covers some about child loss. And anyway, there's lots of different subjects. So it's kind of general, but the purpose is that. And one of the things that I enjoy and actually look forward to is speaking to groups publicly, face to face, whether it be business groups, church groups, small groups, Rotary clubs, doesn't matter. I can relate in lots of ways because of so many experiences in life, and can help people understand the grieving process and improve on their quality of life, at least mentally and emotionally.
Beautiful, beautiful. The work you do is truly richly from the heart, and that's what makes all the difference. And you stand out, you shine in the way that you both come to the world and make a difference. And so appreciative of that. Yeah,
thank you, Becky, for all your help.
It's been just it's such a beautiful thing to be able to help you, to work alongside you to bring this book to the world, because this is truly a process to get to accomplish something like this. But the work that you have is so needed, and I think that even for some people, having gone through COVID and the isolation made a lot of grieving, because they just were not able to really understand, what do I do with myself? And a lot of children have suffered that way because they're no longer with their schoolmates and out of the routine. And you still see some of the residuals coming from that, because and acknowledging the grief process and working through it is such a beautiful gift that you bring to the world. Thank you. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
So anybody that's listening, be sure and you can pick up a copy on Amazon. It'll soon be in the other distribution channels. Share it with somebody that you think that might benefit from this. And really, you can check out David and Crystal's website, griefreliefministries.com. Just reach out, and I'm sure both of them would welcome you reaching out to them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Awesome. Well,
all right.
Such a privilege being with you today. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.